Today's video is all about the oil pump on all of the Yamaha PW50s. Now there's two main problems that we see with these. Number one, these can be injecting too much oil, and the other one is they can be injecting too little oil. So in the first case, when you give it throttle, the oil pump twists and feeds more oil into your carburetor, you're burning more oil, but sometimes they can stick and then you've got too much going in. But on the other case, if you had your top end Cs, you definitely want to inspect your oil pump because you don't want to have the same problem again if you've got too little oil going in there. So in either case, we're going to show you how to inspect this stuff and get your oil pump replaced, bled up, and adjusted correctly. So let's go ahead and get started. To get this done, we have a few common hand tools. So 8, 10, 13, and 17 millimeter combo wrenches. We've got 8, 10, 12, and 19 millimeter sockets, some screwdrivers. We have some two-stroke oil and a syringe to inject that. This is actually a suspension syringe. We're also using contact cleaner, a light lubricating oil, a little bit of grease, safety glasses, rubber gloves, and I am going to use a dial indicator, but we're going to show you how to get the job done either way, and you can decide if you want to use the dial indicator or not. To start out, we need to remove a few parts to gain access to the oil pump. First, we've got two bolts holding the seat on. After that, we've got our silencer. So we've got the hose clamp and a bolt right here. For the axle nut, we have a 19 millimeter socket. I'm going to hold the brake while I loosen that up. And then 12 millimeter socket, we're going to remove the lower shock mounting bolt. And then to remove the bracket, we've got two nuts we need to remove. After that, we're going to remove the exhaust pipe. So we have one bolt in the back and then two up front. After that, we're pulling off the tank. There's a strap in the back and a bolt in the front. So this gray cover is your oil pump cover. You need to remove it. Normally there's a screw right here, but we've got a zip tie. That's what we're dealing with, so we're going to cut it off. At this point, I'm going to remove a few additional parts. You don't have to remove these, but it's going to help us better show the process, and it'll make it easier to gain access to your pump. Okay, first thing I'm going to do to get this replaced is disconnect the oil pump cable. And then we have the oil pump inlet line. We're going to plug that off and the outlet. And before I remove these, you can see we have a ton of grime right here. I'm just going to try to wipe that away as best as I can. So first I'm going to remove this inlet line. And as it comes off, you're going to want to have something to plug it up ready. I'm just going to be using this bolt, but if you have a golf tee or something like that, that would work great. Now for the outlet, you have that metal sleeve right there. We're going to slide that off and then pull the line. And again, you want to be ready with something to plug that up, because even though this is the outlet, you don't want any air in there. Now with those lines plugged up, we've got a screw on top and a screw on bottom we need to remove. Okay, so this thing is pretty stuck, and what I'm gonna have to do is use 2 screwdrivers down in the back, just kind of work it back and forth, and we're about free. Now all this stuff is pretty nasty, so I'm gonna go ahead and wipe up this cover and wipe up the area where that new oil pump is gonna go. Now that we have everything lubed up, I put a little grease on the new pump, on that O-ring, and then also on the plastic gear, just to help with startup. I'm gonna put this through the plastic cover. You know, and you've got the bleed screw, that's right on top. I'm just gonna slide this into place and install the screws. Now the next step is to hook up the oil lines. Now with this outlet hose, if we didn't plug this up and we suspected it was full of air, you'd want to use a syringe with your 2-stroke oil and remove it from the carburetor and push it all the way through. But again, since we have it plugged up, we're just going to hook everything together. I'm just making sure this is 100% topped off. You can see I messed up this routing. I'm gonna fix that in a later step. Then after that, I'm gonna hook up the oil pump cable. The next step is to check the minimum stroke. So we have our dial indicator set up. We've got the plunger on the indicator, on the plunger, on our oil pump, and then we've got the magnetic base on our bracket that goes over the wheel. And what we need to do now is turn the Kickstarter over several times and see how far that plunger is moving. You can see it's going to take several revolutions to move that gear far enough. So you can see we're about 12 thousandths of an inch, which is within spec. So the minimum is 10 thousandths of an inch, and it can be all the way up to 50 thousandths of an inch max. But usually you want to be somewhere in the middle. So just to make it easy, just to show you guys how to adjust this, we're going to set it to about 25 thousandths of an inch. Break the jam nut free. So if you want less play or less movement in the plunger, you turn the adjusting bolt clockwise. If you want more movement in that plunger, go counterclockwise. Now before we go any further, you might have noticed I screwed up the routing on this oil line, so I'm going to go back through and route it through that cover. So right on top, this is our bleed screw, and I'm going to place a rag underneath it to catch any oil that comes out. And then I'm going to remove it. I'm going to wait until all the bubbles are out, and then reinstall it. And obviously when you're doing this, make sure the oil tank is completely topped off, which ours is. It's not doing anything now, but I can hear some air coming out. We're watching those bubbles. It's a pretty solid stream, but we're gonna give it a second here. So that's most of it. And then from here, Yamaha wants you to actually run this, and you're going to turn the oil pump open well you run it. But we've got most of it out now. So what I'm gonna do now, just put the screw back in, and I'm gonna install that rear wheel. We've got the exhaust that needs to go on. I also have the air box. I'm actually going to leave that off, but and we're also going to have the gas tank installed, and I've got a 50-to-1 premix in that gas tank just to make sure that we have oil no matter what, even if we have a couple air bubbles going in. Now from here, we have everything done, but we want to verify our work. And if you had an oil pump that you're not sure if it's good or bad, this is the step that you want to do. So we're going to disconnect the oil line from the carburetor. I'm going to slide back this sleeve just with the screwdriver. Pop the line off, and then we're going to start the bike and run it and make sure we have oil coming out of the line. But again, if you do that, make sure you have premix in your gas tank. And you know, we're doing our first tank of gas with the premix just to be on the safe side, and then from there you should be good to go just with regular gas. But let's go ahead and start this up. Now, if you run this more than a few seconds, a vacuum cap is a good idea. So as you can see, we had that oil come up. We did have a little bit of air in the end, so it's good that we ran it and got that air out of there. But once we had that solid oil coming out, we knew we were good. So from here, we just need to reinstall the oil line. And you might have heard the idle come up a little bit. I mean, obviously you're gonna have a vacuum leak with that oil line off, but if you're only running it for a couple seconds, you should be fine. But if you want to plug it up, that's good too. So that's it. From here, we just need to install our oil pump cover. Now we can reinstall the air box. Then we're going to install the seat assembly. And that's it for the oil pump on the Yamaha PW50s. If you have any questions about this stuff, leave those down in the comments below. We've got replacement parts on our website. Make sure you click that link in our description. And if you want to see more helpful content like this, we have a ton of content for this PW50, so make sure you go over to our channel and subscribe. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATVMC. Thanks for watching.